Yeah, I've done it like this.
This is just put together with screws.
Hello.
4 screws through the bottom, 8 screws holding that wood together.
Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Good, how are you?
All right.
So just pretty good.
Hi, Spencer.
Hello, hello. Hi, how are you?
You look good.
We always make the joke about how you're not supposed to text and drive, and yet on the electronic billboard as you're going down the road, it says, to report a drunk driver, text star 277 or whatever. It's like, wait a second, I'm not supposed to text, but you want me to text to report a drunk driver. Oh yeah, this is true.
I did one time. I got on there when you got hurt. Clearly is.
How was the band?
That was awesome.
I've seen them before. I haven't been to a few years, but I've seen them.
It was really, really good.
You're over here.
Oh, we switched it up here.
How are you this evening?
Hi, how you doing? How was your trip?
That's good.
New Jersey's kind of grand, nice.
Really? I've never heard anything.
I'm not gonna change it. Camden, which is just on the other side of the river.
That's right. Yesterday was a motor on real quick. I don't know why.
No, it was me specifically.
It was very much better.
It was actually pretty good. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, we went back a couple times.
It's still there.
Jersey, we fight there, and we would fight there, so we could get.
Right.
And then we would go to the.
What's that? What's the doing?
Yeah.
All right. I call the order of the meeting on Tuesday, December 17th at 2019. Can I get a moment of silence for all those serving inside and outside our borders, please? All right. Now will you stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please, Mary.
Mayor Adrian Sandoval.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Larry Clark.
Here.
Harold Leggett. Nick Ralston. Spencer Bradnan.
Here.
Troy Blum.
Here.
Hope Morris.
Here. Okay, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda, please.
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, audience participation? None, okay. Moving on, approval of the consent agenda, which includes minutes of the December 3rd regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, engagement letter for Clifton Larson Allen, examination engagement letter for Clifton Larson and Allen, November financials and November paid bills.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second. I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, carried. Action items, ordinance 787, an ordinance of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville setting the compensation for the positions of town clerk, town treasurer, and town manager. Mr. Thank
you. For those who may not know, the town clerk / treasurer and myself are the only appointed full-time employees by the board. Probably didn't might hire everyone else. And by this ordinance that we do annually this time of year, which is part of the budget process, the board establishes compensation to both Mary and I. And, the board met with me on mine, and today I met with Mary this afternoon.
Perfect. Any other questions, comments, concerns? I'd entertain a motion, please.
I move to approve the ordinance 787, an ordinance of the town, ordinance of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Platteville, setting the compensation for the positions of town clerk, town treasurer, and town manager as presented.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Mary.
Harold Leggett, Nick Ralston, Spencer Bradnan,
Aye.
Troy Blum,
Aye.
Larry Clark,
Aye.
Hope Morris.
Yes. All right, motion carried. Resolution 2019-40, a resolution of Town of Platteville Board of Trustees granting a charitable donation to the Platteville Lions Club for goodie bags for Platteville Elementary students. Mr. Rankin.
Mr. Mayor. Curtis is here tonight if you'd like to address the board as well, but this is, I think it's the first time we received this request.
Yes.
Curtis. All right, well, come on up and tell us more about this one,
Yep.
since this is new to us.
Okay, so Curtis Morg, 723 Goodrich Court, Platteville Lions Club. So every year, this is a tradition, every year the Platteville Lions Club purchases snacks through the high school, through the food services. They send us a list of available snacks and we pick out 3 or 4 a year and we bag them up, and on Friday morning, this Friday, I will be with Santa Claus all day long, handing out goodie bags to not just Platteville Elementary, but Gilchrist as well. We started including Gilchrist several years ago because we found out they didn't have anything up there. I looked back on the historical records of our club. We started handing out these goodie bags in 1955. I have grandparents who come up to me and tell me they remember receiving their goodies from the Platteville Lions Club. So this is a long-standing community tradition. A few years ago, we decided, because of the cost of everything, we decided to start reaching out to some of our local community partners to see if they'd be willing to sponsor the event. And for the last couple of years, it has been fully funded. So luckily it doesn't come out of our coffers. I pick up the snacks tomorrow, Thursday night, we get together and bag it all, and then Friday it all gets handed out. Average cost every year right now is about $500. So far we've raised $300. So I'm not asking for a specific amount, I just figured I would bring this to the board and see what the board has to say.
Thank you, Curtis.
Thank you, Curtis. Mayor, before you tonight's resolution, typically our donation request, the board, depending on the request, is about $150. The board has the right to change that, modify that, but that's typically the general amount that we give various organizations throughout the year.
Any questions, comments, concerns? I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to approve resolution 2019-40, resolution of the Town of Platteville Board of Trustees granting a charitable donation to the Platteville Lions Club for the goodie bags for the Platteville Elementary students, not to exceed $150.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call, please, Mary.
Nick Ralston, Spencer Bradnan,
Aye.
Troy Blum,
Aye.
Larry Clark,
Aye.
Hope Morris,
Yes.
Harold Leggett.
All right. There you go.
This should meet your goal this year.
Very cool.
Fantastic. Moving on, C, agreement for services, mowing, landscaping, and maintenance, rock solid landscape. Mr. Rankin?
Thank you. I'll just address this myself. For the last 5 years, we've used rock solid landscapes for all the contract mowing. It's a pretty extensive agreement. A couple of years ago, I asked David to add the ditch along South Main Street along Bella Vista, as well as the intersection of 66 and Main by the schools. Last year, I was very pleased how that looked, because that's CDOT's responsibility, but we all know they're not gonna do it. Just clean up that area. Our cemetery, town hall, all the parks, the ball fields. Years and years ago, we looked hard at, David and Todd and I talked about maybe taking it over ourselves again, and it's just too extensive for the amount we actually pay. Maintaining on equipment and having one or two people do it all week, it takes a long time. So, asking for bids every year, we've been satisfied with Rock Solid, and they're not increasing their prices for 2020. So Dave and I recommend that we agree to the agreement for another year.
Questions, comments, concerns? I entertain a motion.
I move to approve an agreement for services with Rock Solid Landscaping Incorporated for the 2020 mowing season in the amount not to exceed $65,000 and authorize the mayor to execute the same.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Roll call please, Mary.
Spencer Bratton.
Aye.
Roy Blum.
Aye.
Larry Clark.
Alright.
Hope Morris.
Yes.
Harold Leggett. Nick Ralston.
Alright, motion carried. Easy.
Thank you. And then, just so you know, as we get reports, I thought we did in the year with all department heads here. I surprised a few, that's okay.
Why did he look at me?
Come on, man. And I asked them to kind of summarize the year, what they're doing primarily next year, so.
Okay, perfect. So first up, we have Mrs. Torres, Direct Seniors.
So you guys have my report in front of you. It's been a wild 6 months since I got here. I hope that you know that for the people who are very vocal to complain about everything, there's a lot of people that have been very happy, and I've gotten a lot of positive feedback from other residents. They're just not the ones that are out there posting it on social media. So, it has been a good year. Basketball, we did end up having to buy t-shirts for the kids. The jerseys were just not in good condition, and it didn't make sense to invest money in jerseys when in 2020 the plan was to transition over to t-shirts. So we did buy t-shirts, and so that means that at the end of the season we won't be doing, I won't give out the medals for that, because that was what the trade-off was going to be, was that you have a t-shirt to wear. So I think it'll be good. I got all the shirts in today. I'll give them out. It's definitely been, NBAA does things a lot different than how I've ever done youth sports before. And so it's learning a whole new set of ways to do things. And it's working with, when I was in need, we played through the City of Longmont League. And so they just made the decisions, and that's what we went with. And so I called Troy this weekend and let him know that the policy for NBAA is if a site has to be closed due to weather, all the sites get shut down. So they shut down Estes Park this weekend because Estes Park got a lot of snow. Probably 15 minutes later, they came back and said, well, it's nice down here, so let's have the games that are down here. We'll just cancel if you're playing an Estes team. So I let all of my coaches know, if you play in Estes Park or you play an Estes Park team, no games. Got that text message sent out, everyone replied back that they got it. No sooner did I get that back than I get a reply. Well, you know what, Estes Park, their games are in the afternoons down here, they can come down. So now I have to text the coaches back, say, if you play Estes Park in one of the lower levels, not in Estes Park, you will play them today. Go to a class on Saturday morning, get out of class, 25 more text messages saying Estes Park will not be coming down, it has started snowing again. So that is crazy for me to have it be so discussed. And unfortunately, I don't think there's really any other options as far as youth sports leagues. I mean, the city of Longmont would be more than happy for us to play in their league with them. It is more money to play in the city of Longmont league. But then we don't host. We don't have any you don't have any of those expenses, it's all there. But I know it's important and the community likes hosting games here, so, one of my goals for 2020 is to work with NVAA to help them understand that if you have a policy in place, and that's what you've notified your parents and coaches of, this is the policy, you have to stick with it. So if if it doesn't work, to cancel everything because the park has to cancel because of snow, then you need to change your policy, not have 100, in a matter of 3 hours, I had 150 text messages. So, it was crazy. Seniors, I feel like we are stable now and we've gotten things turned around and it's a positive, place to be over there. I feel like we're having a good time this week. I keep telling myself if I get through this week and I'm still standing. We went on Monday to the Air Force Academy Band and to the Olive Garden for dinner. Today we went to Evans for lunch at the Evans Senior Center for Prime Rib. Tomorrow we have the Hookers and Knitters. Thursday we're going to Denver to go to the Bacon Social House for breakfast and to go to the Christ Kindle Market. And then Friday we have lunch and we're going to Melba and Barry's house to look at the lights. So it has been a full week. I think they want a week off next week. I think they're looking forward to that. Attendance has increased and we have people coming and doing things on non-lunch days. So that's definitely a positive. I did interview someone tonight for the coordinator position. And I had Noreen interview with and Sharon Dadisman there to talk to her as well. So we'll have a couple more interviews throughout this week and then hopefully have a decision made by the end of the week. So my goals for 2020 are to get some rec software implemented, get the whole registration process put online for registration for youth sports. I think that'll help the office staff to be able to, it'll cut back on the number of people coming in to pay and turning in things. With the money that I had budgeted in the 2020 budget, the cost is actually less than I anticipated, so there'll be money to buy a laptop to have, I can have it over at the senior center. So if people don't have a computer, or at the community center, if people don't have a computer, they can come over there, they can go to the library. Everyone has a smartphone. There's lots of ways for them to be able to register. But I feel like that would be a positive transition to make, to get it away from paper into an online format. So, I'd like to start working on marketing the fitness center more, getting more people in there using it. I think once we get the keyless entry, we'll see an increase in the number of people using it simply because it's not always convenient to come from 6 to 8 in the morning or 6 to 8 at night on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So I think we'll see more people using it, especially with the whole New Year's resolution. I'm gonna lose 100 pounds fitness trend. I'd like to get some more activities in there, and I would like to let you all know that I had applied for a grant for the Revenue Development and Management School, or the scholarship, that I had put in the budget for 2020, and I did get that, so it will cover everything but my travel expense out there and my meal. Like, you have to pay for your meals on the first day and the day you leave, but, so it's essentially about an $1,800 scholarship, so I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any.
Are you using the bus yet?
Wearing it out.
Yeah, everyone loves it.
They do, and you know, it was great. Today they came up to me. So when the bus first came, they asked how I was gonna decide who got to ride and who had to go in the old one. And so I said, well, it'll be first come, you know, whoever registers first will get to go in there. And so of course, every time I put a registration slip out, they're like vultures and they're like writing their name. I said, there's no scratching someone out and putting your name in their face. And last night when we went to the Air Force Academy band, I think they realized that there are some seniors that truly could not get into the old van. And that they need the van that has it's lower to the ground and it has easier access, not just for the wheelchair lift, but for the ease of, if I have a cane or I have a walker, getting into the van is actually a challenge. We had 2 gentlemen that went last night that I'm not sure they could have gotten into the passenger side seat of the van in the front seat. So it was nice to have that for them, and so a couple seniors said, you know, we really need to make sure that those seniors that have trouble walking have priority in the van, not just that you got it because you signed up first. And these were people who had signed up first. So it was nice that they can recognize that. And, you know, I told Troy today when we took the van to Evans, it really is a nice van still. I mean, they've taken really good care of it. It rides really nice. It's got get up and go. I mean, it's not like they're driving some jalopy. And they called it the fun vehicle. So,
Well, I raced them home, like we won, right?
and we won.
Well, David took it over, and the steering has been tightened up, got new tires on it, to kind of check all things, and it does drive still pretty good. So,
How many miles on that?
not even 90,000 now.
Not even 65.
Really?
Really?
From 1992, brand new.
Wow, okay.
So it hasn't taken long road trips.
What year is it?
1992, it was donated by
It's amazing.
Morning Fresh Farm. Yeah,
Well, it had a lot to do with that the seniors had to pay for their own gas and stuff.
yeah.
We didn't realize that. I don't know, like what?
And they are talking amongst each other about the idea of doing a field trip where we go someplace and like an overnight field trip where we stay and we go further, because the new bus is more comfortable to ride in long term. So you may hear of some of those field trips coming up where there's an overnight trip, so.
Is there a way to, you can only fit 9 in it, right, the bus, is that true?
You can strap 2 in a wheelchair at the back.
Is there a way to, you don't always use those wheelchair seats, right? Is there a way to put like like a removable seat, like a minivan has, so you can get some more seating capacity?
I tried that because part of the process was CDOT and the consultant is, initially they told me that there's different designs, this was the one that fit us the best and that we could afford. The 2 back wheelchair areas, initially they told me they had to put down seats where a senior could sit in. Then because of ADA guidelines, there wasn't enough room technically, so I had to have either or. I opted for the wheelchair accessibility, obviously. So,
Cause I'm more so thinking like a removable seat.
You can put a wheelchair in for some.
we have 2 wheelchairs at senior center in worst case scenario.
Yeah, I guess. Kind of like.
And they are pretty secure in there.
Yeah, they're strapped down pretty tight. And part of the conversation today at lunch in Evans, Jen and I had, and along with some other seniors, when they take road trips to go shopping, like to a key in different places, they can actually bring stuff home.
Yeah.
Because there's plenty of room now where the van,
On the head space.
it has the head racks for storage and it has a whole back end, no one sitting back there. So, I'll be curious to see what the first sleepover trip will be.
Well, so they talked about, going to Pueblo, going down to Pueblo, we could go down there, cause you can go in March, the weather's nice enough to go down in March. There's a lot to do in Pueblo, going to like the Royal Gorge, they'd like to ride the train at the Royal Gorge, just stuff like that. But Deadwood did come up. And then they start talking about like going out further, I'm like, let's do an overnight trip first.
So you make sure that person that you do interviews, they know they have to do some work.
Where are we at with those doors you were discussing as well?
Still work in progress, cause we can't, The ones we thought we had aren't really the price that we're hoping for. It'll get resolved here the first part of next year. I don't know how it will.
Not in time for our New Year's resolution.
No, but as I've been thinking about this, I mentioned in the front office, I know some people have signed up and paid, but those are usually punch cards or monthly passes, I think. Try to open up for January to anybody and everybody while Janet's there during the day, so. Might help
Try it out.
Yeah. Try it out, check it out.
Yeah, 3 months.
Added a few new items, but it's, you get a rowing machine in there, people have asked for that. And when the seniors ask for a bike that they pedal, that it blows air on to cool them off, I'm not sure, I've seen it, but yeah.
I told Troy to just say no.
I just do what I'm told.
But I will tell you that when I posted that the senior center was closed when we had the snowstorm, I put the senior center, the fitness center, and the community center are closed due to the inclement weather. And someone posted on Facebook like right away, and they were like, "Where's the fitness center?"
Yeah.
Like they had no clue that it was a legitimate. They would go there and work out.
we have a fitness center in this town?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh my God, how many times have we?
Mm-hmm.
You gotta get out of the shell a little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Anything else from Mr. Ford? Alright, thank you very much. Moving on to library, Diane.
Okay, if you've read what I sent in, we've lived in a construction zone since April. I'm so done with it.
Is your roof done?
The roof is done except for gutters, but at least we have the roof on. Yeah, and new skylights. The bathroom renovation turned into way more than what we had anticipated because of all the water pipes underneath the cement slab. There were places that the slab variations are, I don't know what the deal was when that was laid in there. But we had a jackhammer running in there for a couple of weeks. But now everything is the same height, same elevation, it's all good. The bathrooms are single stall, which has cut down on the kids messing around in there, because only one in there at a time. I didn't think it would make that big of a difference, but it did. We had Nantes open full-time while we were closed here in Platteville, and we saw a spike in activity, and so we're gonna go ahead and have Nantes open full-time after the first of the year. We won't have evening hours at any facility, either one of the facilities anymore. We have seen a drop in foot traffic. It's just not worth keeping 2 people employed in both buildings during the evenings. So with taking those evening hours away and adding them to Nantes, we really didn't change our whole makeup of employees that much. The Nantes library is definitely living up to its potential as energy efficient. The Excel bill this last month was $11.
Wow.
It's unbelievable, just unreal. We did have the energy company in there to change out some filters for our air circulation, and he brought a deal with him that took temperatures throughout the building. The floor is as warm as the rest of it. The windows only vary by a couple of degrees. The only place we really saw any drop in temperature was like 6 inches inside of the doors on the floor. Other than that, that whole building stays the same temperature all the way through. It's just incredible. As far as plans for 2020, no more construction. Not doing it. The intergovernmental agreement between High Plains Library District and the member libraries, I think we're getting very close to a final copy to where we all agree. We want the IGA itself between the member libraries and the district to be completely uniform all the way across the board. And I know the town attorneys don't wanna get together to talk about, but they should have. Hopefully within the next couple of months, we'll have a final that can actually be presented to the boards for signing. Other than that, that's what we got going.
And like Diane mentioned, the town attorneys, our attorney Kendra reached out to Gilchrist and, not with Gilchrist, but other communities, and she really didn't get a response back. So she was willing to. I'm not sure what the issue was, but I'm glad it's going to get resolved.
I don't know. I think they're as sick of it as we are.
I think it's a taboo if you get more than 2 attorneys in the same room.
That is a problem.
Don't give them chairs.
Yeah, don't tell Kendra that either.
Yeah. But hopefully by spring sometime, we'll have an IGA that everybody is willing to sign.
Diane, how long have we been without an active IGA?
I think the last one was 2009.
So it's been basically expired all these years.
Well, the way it was written was that unless there was a problem, it rolled over.
Okay.
The only thing that is going to be different, the IGA itself is going to be a very simple document like it was in 1985 when the district was formed. The addendum on the document is the list of services that is provided. And that will, the member directors and our boards will review that every year. Because technology changes so much that you really have to go over it every year. But the IGA itself, I'm hoping, is going to be something that we don't ever have to change.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you very much. Anything else today? All right. Moving on to Chief Dwyer.
Thank you, Mrs. Mayor. I think we had a successful year. We haven't hired since the beginning of the year, so we almost went a year without any officers leaving, which is always a success. We stayed active. We've had some pretty hairy sort of stuff going on in 2019, including a couple weeks ago on Highway 85, but we all managed well to recover and move on to the upcoming year. So for this upcoming year, I'm hoping to hire and retain our next officer. This upcoming month, we have it advertised, so I hope that we get he or she hired. I'd like to, once they're hired and everyone's out of FTO, initiate a neighborhood watch, I think, and hoping anyway that they're will have an interest enough to actually have a neighborhood watch, because it's you guys, it's them who actually run the show and watch. We kind of oversee and hold their hand, but hopefully we'll get some who are interested in participating in a neighborhood watch, and probably if everything runs right, maybe by March. I take that back, maybe April or May, so we won't have to worry about snow and whatnot. Our MBTs are needing help, we're getting a couple new cars, so just getting that all done. Another hurdle that we're going to have to work on this upcoming year is the red flag law. As you all know, that's something we're working on something to ensure that if and when, it's not a matter of if, but when we have to utilize red flag laws, it's in a safe manner, and that's number one, like I mentioned in the past, but there's a lot that has to be worked out as far as hopefully initiating a response sort of team or response officers in the event that this happens, to make sure that we have the safety that we need. So and that may be a pretty time-consuming thing, so I'm not sure, but red flag in the next year is probably going to change. It's gonna, what they kind of hope and see it as right now isn't going to be the same as it is mid-year, I feel. And, so I'm just working with the town attorney, with the town manager to work out some some stuff before the beginning of the year, and this goes into effect. So that's for sure something that hopefully will go smooth this upcoming year. My hope anyway. Other than that, yeah, just enhancing the relationship with the citizens of the town, and not sitting in our hands, but keep on moving forward. So.
Questions,
I'm
comments?
going to add to the like discussion a few weeks back. Part of the new legislation requires all agencies to adopt policy. I discussed it with Kinder and Carl initially. That's a adoption by each police chief for the statute. Colorado Post, the Peace Officer Standardized Training Board, sent out a version of that policy which mimicked what Kinder had also sent out to all the clients that she represents. When Carl mentioned that, that's going to be adopted in their manual, and I'll get a copy to the board at the next meeting to review. But it's pretty standard and pretty much all the agencies that have the same one. Just so you know.
Anything else for Chief Clark? All right, thank you very much. Moving on to Mr. Brand.
Thank you, Mrs. Mayor. I don't have much to add to my written report. Under the wastewater, the last bullet item there, I spent 6 hours with 3 representatives from CDPHE today on a inspection, compliance inspection that they do. The last one we had was in 2015, so it was 4 years ago. They try to do it. Their goal is every 3 years. Their average is at closer to 7, but because we had a new permit, they try to get to all the new permitted facilities within 12 months of them getting their new permit. Our new permit came in last year, so I guess that's how we won the lottery and got up on the average versus the 7 years. But went well. A couple of minor items with the way that I was reporting something. It was more of a technicality than I wasn't doing it wrong. It just wasn't as right as they would like it on the report. So I was pleased. I couldn't believe it took 6 hours to get to that point, but I was very pleased with how it went, and that it wasn't anything super significant, and very nice group of people that I was working with. They came across as very friendly and weren't hey, we're out to get you or anything else. They had a great attitude, and they wanted to work with us and not just, you're not doing this, this, and this. It was, and more or less, the couple of things they pointed out was like, well, we'd like to see this change, or technically we need to see this change, but there wasn't any kind of violation or any kind of an issue that we were in trouble for. It was just a different way that they wanted to see it presented in the monthly reports. So that went well. And the update right after I finished getting this put together and sent to Troy and Mary last week, we got a report on Friday morning of a water leak in Bella Vista. Appeared to be, it was coming up in somebody's front yard not too far from their meter pit, which is usually a pretty good indicator that you got a service line problem over there. But we started digging up their yard and then realized it was coming from under the driveway, and so we dug up part of their driveway and then realized it was coming from under the street and under the sidewalk. And with half my staff either out on medical leave or on vacation at this point, I threw up my hands and called the contractor and said, what are the chances of you coming to give us a hand making this repair? And he says, well, I've got 3 crews out doing 3 others for Central Weld right now. We can be there at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. So we buttoned it up for the night. That's the messages that you heard when we put it turned out to be a mainline break. The main line was down about 6 feet 2, 6 feet 3 inches. It was a 6-inch cast iron pipe that had fractured. So they took out about a 4-foot section of it and put new fittings on each end and replaced that, and buttoned it all back up. And if things go well, it should be repaved by Friday. So we got a paving crew that's looking to come in on Thursday or Friday if we get above 40 degrees. And that would be the other thing under the water distribution is we'll be fixing that hole in Bella Vista Drive. There was one other water valve in Bella Vista that when they did the repairs earlier this year that they weren't able to do because we couldn't find the valve box that needed to be raised. So they'll be fixing those two, and then we had a water leak after all the pavement repairs were done over on Byers, in the 300 block of Byers. So they'll be repairing all of those, or patching all of those if we get the warm enough temperatures for them to come in and get that done. But he's fully anticipating Thursday or Friday to be able to come in and do those for us. Moving right along, I don't really have anything else super significant to point out. Like I said, we're gonna be short-staffed till first week of January or so, between holidays, vacations, and medical stuff. With the addition of the part-time position that the board authorized for the Public Works Department this year, I took that opportunity after speaking with the town manager, and I know and I appreciate what the board has done over the years of attempting to allow as large of a raise as possible that the budget allows us to do, and you've also looked at other opportunities and ways to say thank you to the staff that's here and let them feel appreciated. And in light of that, one of the things with the part-time position is I added one more week to the rotation, the on-call rotation, and I will be splitting that with the part-time person. So that person and I will each have half of the rotations that the other full-timers have, but it will add one more week, which will take them from 12 to 13 rotations a year down to 10 or 11 rotations a year. So hopefully that will work out. They will never be on call the same week in the same month unless we have one of those odd months where you end up with 5 full weeks in a month. So for the most part, I'm hoping that that's something that we can add to, and I'm hoping that we don't end up with more medical issues or something else where I'm going to be on call more than once every 5 weeks because I'm covering somebody else in the process. So we did that, and after speaking with the crew, we did want to make sure that the board knows that everybody in the public works staff was very appreciative of the additional funds that were made available for next year's salaries. So I don't have any other comments. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer.
Well, those heated seats working on. Pretty good.
They work great.
Excellent.
Almost too good.
Thank you.
Yes.
Turned them off.
Might be a little hot.
Have you seen anything out of Grosswind as far as treatment numbers go? We're still in the wait and see.
They did do the next data dump to the state about a week ago as far as the information, but that was the last of the information that was sent while the system was configured in parallel, not in series.
Right.
And so at this point, those numbers are still fairly reflective of what the first set of numbers were, is that out of the 4 main parameters, 2 of them were better than they expected and 2 of them were worse than they expected. So we haven't seen any data since the November 1st transfer to the in-series. So I want to say that that's a mid to late January is what they were anticipating, that next set of data points to go. So that'll be the one that'll be very...
So you get those numbers when they come out?
They copy me on them. Yeah. So Troy and I. So, and they send them to the state, they copy Troy and myself, and then JVA.
Perfect.
Can you elaborate a little bit further on the nutrient removal credits that you outlined in your report?
I can attempt to, but I'm not sure I can add too much to it. The state is offering for every entity, and at the time I signed up last week, for us, there was, what did I say, 93? 90, we were the 93rd entity in the state to sign up for them. And for bigger communities that have multiple facilities, if they have a facility that is newer and is treating really well and is already treating for phosphorus and some of the other nutrients, they can, if they meet that criteria before the 2027 deadline, then they can get credits for those and either extend the deadline for that facility, or they can take those credits and use them towards another facility that may not be able to meet that criteria soon enough. So right now with the lagoon, we don't meet that criteria at all, but because we will be building a new facility that we are planning to start to meet that criteria, hopefully prior to the 2027 deadline, JVA recommended and the state asked us to go ahead and sign up for it. And the deadline was just, we had to go in and say, we're hoping to do something to, I mean, basically, because we didn't, my report to the state was, well, we really don't have a clue exactly how we're gonna meet these, don't even know if we will meet these, but we wanna be signed up just in case we meet these, and in case we meet them early. So, what benefit that will have for Platteville at this point, I don't know, but it was an incentive program that we really couldn't find any downside to putting our name in the hat for it. And if, you know, if we get the approval for the RAP technology and we're meeting that by 2023 or 2024, that would be a 3-year credit prior to, like on the phosphorus end of things. So if we were to get that credit, I don't know if there's such a thing as selling that to another community that needs it, or if you can only use it among yourself. That hasn't been discussed or figured out. That idea has been floated. That,
better to have the opportunity than to not.
And that's how we looked at it, and for now we couldn't find a downside to going ahead and throwing our hat in the ring. I hope I don't find out 2 or 3 years from now that, oh, well, now they've got us for this because we signed up. So,
Well, you made a rational decision at the time with the best information available at the time. You can't argue with that. I mean, if the shifting sand changes between now and 3 years from now, well, that's nothing you could have anticipated.
right. So,
You just hope it's not quicksand.
yeah.
Right.
So, did that answer it, Spencer?
We could call it gravel, right?
Any other questions for today? All right, thank you, David. Next is the attorney. You'll have the report.
I excuse you tonight, her son was in a band concert for Christmas program up in Greeley.
Okay, moving on to Mr. Reagan.
Actually, I didn't when they got married, so she submitted a report behind mine, so I'm gonna defer to Mary first.
Okay.
Because she's a department head, she's in the front office administration. She just normally doesn't report because she's taking care of you. Well, board meetings, so.
Yes.
Mary?
I just gave you bullet point highlights of things we do every day. There's been some changes to the specifics of how we do it, but in general, it's all the same. Not a lot of detail, so if you have additional questions, I'm happy to share what I know.
Work with Mary in the front office, I would say the transition from Casell to CIS was a huge undertaking, which I know at one point kudos to Mary because she was here quite a few Saturdays and a few Sundays.
I got both ears full for that.
And then transitioning from
No, that's good.
First National Bank to Colorado until Mary finally worked out whatever the Department of Revenue's issues were. So we had, a lot of our stuff is deposited or we get basically downloads from grants, UTF funds, blah, blah, blah. Mary had to deal with all that with all these different facets, and that was not the easiest undertaking as well, so I give her kudos for that.
People at the state do not talk to each other.
No, we do not.
They don't speak English.
But they all tell me on the other end of the line that that'll cover all of your state accounts. But it did not, but I think we have them all now.
Are we getting any closer for people to be able to pay their water bill?
We are online.
Oh, okay.
We are. There'll be a bigger announcement, in next month's water bill, utility bill, sorry. We wanted to go ahead and go live with the site and see if people would find it. Many have. We're getting payments every day. And just test it and make sure that everything works fine and that we know the internal process, because it's not, the online site and Assist do not interface with each other, so it's still manual, to get the payment transferred from Express to be entered into Assist to show on the individual statements. So we wanted to go through that a little bit before we had hundreds of people at a time wanting to sign up, so that we knew what to do. But we have, we still have the auto pay from a checking or savings account processed through our bank. That's gone very well for people who understand what their bank routing number is. Many do not. And we'll continue to make that available because there's no cost to the town. The two options for credit card payments, one, the customer can go on every month, put in their amount due, and just press pay. If they want that to be automatic, it'll be done basically the same procedure that we do with the checking account payments now. But they'll have to call us so that we can access the system from the administrative side, because there are so many options. People will be signing up for things that they really don't want to sign up for, and that way we can control what they want to do and explain to them that the payments will always take place on this day. No, you can't pick any day of the month to make it. We are not that advanced quite at this point, but every month their payment will happen the day before the due date.
Slowly but surely.
Do we have what's our level of protection against like a ransomware? Do we have like a hard backup of all of our files that you update on a daily basis?
As far as payments and banking transactions, we don't store any data. The financial institutions are responsible for that, and they have some very high security standards now. That's something that I really appreciate with this change. As far as our internal processes, that's backed up daily. Multiple times we have, in admin, we've taken portable hard drives and backed up all of our permanent records on portable hard drives as well. So we have that in-house. We have the online version and we have a cloud storage version.
But the hard drive would be your disconnected, non-internet version, not unhackable, right? Can't
Correct.
go on the internet, can't hack it.
Correct.
Cool.
And then we'll go in annually and update that. There'll be, a new year worth of data that goes on the end, but most of it will remain the same.
Any other questions for Mary? Okay, Mr. Rankin, thank you, Mary.
Thank you. Well, you can see I wanted all the staff to be here, department heads for the last meeting of the year. They really like giving me reports to the board, as you can all see. I think we need to have Diane here more often though.
Thank you, though. Yeah, I appreciate the honor.
That's why we all look at you.
Yeah, you know where I'm at if you need.
report. Pretty good budget year overall, like the CMAG vehicles, chief's gonna get both vehicles, I only thought we had one, I was surprised, pleasantly surprised. For this week, I've been working with Cheryl Trent on the marketing brochure. She's been asking for properties and areas to market and giving her information that they have. Not all inclusive, it's a start. You will receive a draft here after the holidays. I spoke to the mayor about this multimodal options funding from CDOT. Unfortunately, we are exempt from any match because of our size, but our poverty rate is over 12%. I don't always agree with stats, but it is what it is. A detailed explanation of our negotiation with West Farm.
Troy,
Yes.
can I have you speak into the microphone, please?
Oh, I don't have a microphone, that's probably why. Sorry.
That's okay, thank you.
Cause my voice is so clear all the time. Right? The West Farm, a couple key items for the open space dedication, Red River Trail easement. They will improve County Road 32.5 from Sturkle all the way to 21 by September 1. That was a demand of mine, and they weren't opposed to that. Future sales tax could be fairly lucrative. I met with Chris Cross, new manager for Lupton. Claude Haynes retired as of last Friday. They did that set agreement, and then the rebate of anything over that $35,000. They said they wish they truly had not done that.
Troy, I'm confused on that, so, explain that sales tax, how, from a mine operation, how do we get sales tax from that?
Because when we met with LG Everest, Matt Notaboo, who's their general manager for this area for the company, he said even only about 20% is bought on site, and it's not shipped off, that Fort Lupton is actually getting sales tax, and that pit is over twice the size of what this one will be. But he said from their evaluations and their pothole testing, basically, that this one is full of gravel, and once they gear up, it'll actually be more
So
productive.
every dump truck load that goes out there, they sell that, they get.
By volume,
There'll be a scale out there.
there'll be a scale,
Yeah.
just like they have in Fort Lupton. And Chris in Fort Lupton said, you know, they're rebating quite substantially more back to LG Everest than they're receiving on their fixed contract. He said it should have never been done, but they didn't know.
Yeah.
So I'm using them. I may be wrong, but I'd rather take that gamble.
Right.
Because LG is not gonna offer us any more than $35,000 on our contract, or they'll take the sales tax from time to time. I did indicate that I tried to get them to give us an annual payment until they started mining. That was not shot down. Because they're not making money off the site yet.
Yeah.
But part of,
Good.
part of their logic for not making the payment was the fact that they're gonna put a very substantial amount of money into the road.
Into the road.
And give us the money.
I'm looking about 8 to 10 acres along the river, right there at kind of 23 and 32.5 north side of the bridge. And then a dedicated trail easement to that half mile to the south of the bridge.
Are they gonna put some turn lanes when they help redo the road up on 32.5 and stuff like that? And
That's something we discussed, that, you know, they're responsible to just redo the road as it is. The town wants to partner with them, widen that intersection of 21, 32.5.
Right.
And then also that corner where 32.5 goes into Schultz and the trucks have to turn north on 25. There's a utility pole right there. I want to relocate that and widen that turning radius for the trucks so that they can turn easily, you know, stay on the truck route instead of going through Schultz subdivision. And I don't know what those costs would be, but I told Matt with LG Everest, I want your contracted prices. I don't want to be priced separately than what you're paying.
Right.
So, and we would just use their contractor. I'm guessing Martin Marietta, because, you know,
Yeah.
they're the ones that did camera 38 for the other sand pit we have. Before I ask you some questions on the upcoming ballot initiative in the spring, Mary and I are working, and Jan are working with Ann. She's a consultant on the bus grant from CDOT to close that out. And she sent me a bunch of stuff today to log into Co-Trans. Everything's called Co-Trans online now, so we can get a reimbursement. David Green and I met with, you earlier approved the financial audit engagement letter with Clifton Larson Allen. The 2019 financial audit will be held week of April 6th to 10th. this next month, I haven't really set a date yet, but I wanna do a study session with the board, and I also want to put the planning commission. Talk about raw water supply plan, hopefully have some information David could share about wastewater and the pilot study. I'll talk more about that, at our first meeting in January. I'll probably push that back to toward the end of January, just to ensure I have some more information for the board. On January 7th, our next meeting, first one of the year, I will give you your new budget books. If you have still your old binders and old, please turn them in, and I'll just recycle those and reuse those.
Sitting in my shelf.
Exactly. But otherwise, I want to end with two things. First, Kidder sent me some sample questioning for the ballot questions for 3 questions. 1, should the town allow medical marijuana businesses? 2, retail marijuana businesses? And 3, if so, should we increase by a quote amount by additional sales tax above and beyond our 3% sales tax? So that's what we have so far for the ballot. We'd also talked during the study session about possibly a mill levy override or a sales tax increase. Timing's important to me. I don't know if we're ready for timing yet on that yet. My recommendation, if you want to try one of those two, I want to do both at the same time. I would do sales tax over property tax, just because between the school district and the fire district, that's where the increases have gone up. Sales tax, you can argue either point. The sales tax is more distributed. The locals don't have to pay if you don't shop here, but people, if we're getting a lot of sales tax from people that don't reside in Platteville, they're passing through. But I'm not really pushing either one right now. I think these are the biggest questions for the spring election. If these get approved and the board agrees to that, because the board could do it without the other people, that this could potentially bring in some additional sales tax we don't anticipate. So I want your feedback on if these 3 questions are appropriate, and if you want to add another question on the ballot. Because I can't present this to you in writing yet, because once we do, it's final, it's done.
Where's our sales tax right now? It's at 2.1.
This is, state is 2.9, Platteville is 3. There's communities higher than ours. We raised it from 2 to 3% back in November of 2009 during a special election. That 1% is dedicated, the additional 1% of that 3 total solely goes to the capital improvement fund. And I can show the community, and I hope to next month, send out some information that this been a huge significant impact for improving roads and different infrastructure projects that we've done.
How much of an increase would we be looking at? 0.5% or
0.5%. And it goes better if you dedicate that 0.5%. You can go toward general fund, but you can be dedicated toward economic development. You can go to parks and trails. People understand that better when they connect to a specific reason. That doesn't go into the black hole of the general fund, so to speak, even though the general fund offsets most of those other capital expenses. So before the 2009 election, we weren't doing capital projects. We simply weren't. We were budgeting $40,000 to $50,000 a year in streets to do M&O maintenance of streets and fix potholes. That's why the board and I at the time said we're broke, we need more money. And this has been huge. Literally millions of dollars of improvements. And then we go after grants to expand that value.
Surrounding communities where our sales tax is comparable, where lower, higher, same.
We're toward the bottom of the range. I mean, there's no one really that has less than 3%, if I remember right, but there's some that are 3.5%, 4%. And then some communities like Centerre and Loveland and over in Longmont, they have areas where there's TIFs. Taxing, basically is additional tax. And that's why I'm hesitant to go to those places, because if you look at your tax, you're paying 11%, 10%, you have additional tax, just for those specific areas that help offset those developers. So shopping.
Those areas are offering a lot more to their citizens than we are.
Well, exactly, but you pay more. It is. I don't know if the time's right or not. I mean, I wouldn't be hesitant to ask for a 0.5% sales tax, but I would recommend making it for a specific purpose that would help offset anything that the general fund would have to put into that And the town's starting to evolve with downtown development.
River Trail.
I know where Spencer stands. I can define economic development as Cheryl Trent, using Cheryl Trent's terminology, where it could be improving the downtown, doing business incentives.
That could be a whole
Building
big
railroad
umbrella
trails.
of stuff.
Yeah, it could be broad reaching if you define it that way,
Yeah.
and that would be my recommendation.
However, I think if you look at history of, mill levy of the school district, the first time they tried to pass it, it failed miserably.
Yep.
Because it wasn't defined
Yep.
where that money was gonna go. And that's, I mean, I voted it down because they wanted this money, what were they gonna do with it? You've got to have an actual definition of where it's gonna go.
Yep. And if you summarize to the point, people don't understand economic development like they don't comp plans.
Right.
But if we can phrase in a way where it's to improve and enhance the businesses in Platteville and our recreational amenities, I think that would go a long ways.
Especially if you throw recreational amenities and that type of thing into it, where they have a reason to stay in town to do this stuff and not have to go somewhere else.
That's one example I bring up because for the growth of the community like we're working on, we really don't have a budget for that key component. We have an economic development planning section of the general fund, and that's essentially building permits and our town plan. There's no capital part of that. So this would essentially be almost a capital addition, but I can see those areas in order for them to grow, we need to put some money into them. So that's just a recommendation to the board if you want to pursue that way. I just want to ask an increase just for general fund. I don't think it applies. So.
But with the recent my tax evaluation on my home went up drastically, I'm sure everyone else's did, so if someone wanted me to pay more property tax, they could pay this off, it ain't gonna happen.
It would be a tough one. I mean, it's just timing and property tax. You want to talk to the seniors off and on. Most of them said that's where it's them because that's a set amount. If they want to bargain shop and build places where they know there's lower sales tax, they have that right opportunity. You can't with property tax. You're stuck with the government. And our mills is only 18.385. We're one of the lowest mills around. I think Hudson's mill's like 40. They get a ton of property tax.
That might be why your water bills are so much lower too.
Probably. There's a bigger picture to all this.
Absolutely. Well, I think then maybe we need to be more prepared before we ask either one of those questions.
I think it's a good idea to just finish the economic development plan. And you can always add this to a November special election like we did back in 09. You don't have to wait for a spring election.
How much does special election cost, Mary? Just off the top of your head.
It depends when you do it and how.
Like it's like,
Mail ballot election in April, probably minimum $4,000.
okay, what about November?
A coordinated election in November with the county, less than half of that.
Oh,
They do all their own printing.
okay, gotcha.
And that's how we did in 09 for the initial capital fund.
Okay.
We know that we're going to want to do economic development and pursue recreation projects, right? So if that's what we're saying that's what we're gonna go for. I don't necessarily see an advantage to wait unless you just want to uncloud the ballot a little bit, I guess, but unless you think you would like more time to prepare the ballot initiative around those things just discussed.
I think we wanna be absolutely prepared before we ask that, cause say we ask it this time around willy-nilly, which is what we would be doing, and then it doesn't pass, then we prepare and we go after it again next year, people are just gonna be mad about it. I don't think that's a good idea.
To answer your question, if I may, the marijuana question, it's been out there for several years now, so people already know how they're gonna react to that when they vote. Economic development is new to Platteville. So to answer your question, doing it on a coordinated election in ballot in November, giving us time to finish the plan, promote the plan, come up with more specific numbers on what renovating downtown will cost.
Absolutely.
Coming up with cost for the river trail system with GOCO, and actually people can touch, feel, sink their teeth in, okay, this is where this money's gonna go, that will be better take.
Thank
So
you.
yes, better preparation.
Point is well taken.
But I know we talked about both mill levy and sales tax and budget, and I'm not pushing either one right now, and definitely not property tax. I know it's more of a guarantee, like base rates and water and sewer, but right now, we have a group of people, a large group of people in town, it's just hitting the part of on the pocketbook. So,
Yeah, I agree.
Larry, any questions? Your mind's going, I know that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, you mentioned that a lot of sales tax is derived from people who don't live in town. And that aspect of it I find to be very attractive, in terms of revenue. And frankly, some of the town gets the benefit of it all.
Sure.
But in fact, don't pay it all. So as obnoxious as I find sales tax to be in the first place, I find it to be very regressive by nature. But it appears to be the lesser of the two evils, particularly when it's compared to property tax.
It gives people options.
The one thing that strikes me, I see the benefit of waiting to the November election. But I'm gonna take the same stance as I did about raising the sewer rate. The sooner you put it through, the sooner you start accumulating the money. The timing is not as good as you say, finishing the economic development plan and promoting that on a public relations campaign. So I can see some merit in waiting to November. The cost of the ballot is maybe cheaper, but not a significant factor. But yeah, 0.5% sales tax I don't think is unreasonable, especially in light of how it compares with the surrounding communities. So I'm kind of torn.
What if we do all of our plans and we decide that the cost of all that's gonna require a 1% increase? Then we go back the following year and ask for another 0.5%?
Well, you could ask for 1% in November. Just ask once.
A lot of communities have it 4%.
You know, and there's certainly good reason to attach it to parks, fun stuff, warm and fuzzy things, as opposed to asphalt repair or needed, just the same. I mean, but as opposed to the labeling, well, we're just gonna dump this in the general fund and distribute it as needed. But the economic development plan is gonna include some incentives, I'm sure, somewhere along the line, either to existing businesses or new businesses.
Exactly. The only incentive we truly have was years ago, we developed what's called the STEP, Enhanced Sales Tax, for not industrial, but for retail, commercial type businesses that generate sales tax. And they can petition this governing body for a rebated sales tax to offset their development costs. It's never been done. We haven't had any retail come in until now with 7-Eleven. And I haven't discussed that.
Or it starts to build on itself. You give somebody an incentive to bring a business to town. You know, well, if you give them some tax credit, as you say, or rebate for time specific, but after that time is over, then the additional revenue. You know, economic development is kind of you plant the seed, And you gotta wait for a while before it grows. And so it's money well spent up front, although you might not recover it as fast as you might want to.
And the key question is timing, and do we have enough time between now and April to really get this out to the community? We could, it'll be a challenge. The plan's supposed to be done at the end of February. I would, if we went that route, I would ask the board, like we did back in '09, and back then, we had the town attorney attend the board, we went to the community center, we had a public meeting to answer questions, not promote the ballot questions, but to answer questions as, what will this actually pay for, what will this do? But you can't tell people to vote for it, you can't, it's illegal.
How long does it take to get those ballot questions, like is there 90 days, they have to be written before
Oh,
the
I
election?
didn't bring my election calendar. I think the questions have to be in, I'd say early February. I can't give you a specific date. Because of the, specifically, since you're doing a mail ballot, and we're required to do the UOCAVA mailing, and that's well in advance of the election to get that stuff sent out and give them the ability to vote. So everything is ratcheted back about a month.
So beginning of February.
So maybe April is practical for the sales
You have to
tax.
work fast.
Yeah, but the marijuana questions are gonna be on the April ballot, is that regardless?
Well, I haven't directed the attorney to draft them in final, that's up to the board. But that was a discussion the board had in the budget.
I don't think anybody's questioning that, they're questioning the sales tax and the mill levy. That's my understanding, am I wrong?
In on marijuana, do we need to state specifically, how much of a sales tax we would want on it, on the ballot?
The way the town attorney has this worded, it's, and I need to clarify this with you, I mean, you have to give an annual amount of what you could potentially generate. And you wanna do a general annual amount at a limit to where you never exceed it, because if you exceed it, you gotta give it back, and that's a disaster.
And the annual amount has to be calculated by an equation, I thought.
Yeah, and
But
that's
based
why.
on a sales tax amount.
Yeah, typically, and when I pulled some of the other surrounding communities, some of them don't have the additional sales tax, they have additional excise tax or something that's different than that, but it's essentially the same thing. One community said they didn't increase any additional sales tax for marijuana, but they were regretting that, because just an additional revenue.
So what's the number?
What's the number for sales tax?
The potential?
With our current 3, I would,
Add 40% to that. Is that what they tax cigarettes and tobacco
I
at?
would,
It's like 50% right
No,
now.
what he's saying is what we could potentially bring in based on, right, isn't that what you're saying?
for the sales tax, or for the
For
marijuana?
the marijuana thing,
Well, it's solely marijuana, it's not townwide, so it's just for marijuana.
right.
I need to look at more, it's all over the board. Looking at communities our size, I mean, you go from Garden City, which is bringing in hundreds of thousands of dollars, but look at their market, and I talk to Hayden and Walsenburg and some of those smaller rural communities like ours, not as rural as ours, or actually more rural, you know, 40,000. So I haven't found a good comparison yet, it's all over the board.
And this is the same thing.
Well, yeah, but you can't, I'm sorry,
Oh, go ahead.
you can't compare Garden City because they have 4 dispensaries. That's why they're bringing in hundreds of thousands.
Plus they have
Well, plus
right
have
next
the
to Greeley.
population that.
Right.
Right.
Those
You don't have
students.
Greeley.
Yeah, right.
The one I would be more comfortable comparing to most of the Lions, I talked to the clerk over the Lions, similar type of traffic volumes, we have 85, but they have Estes Park, you know. It's around 60,000, just off there, and they only do 1 dispensary, and you can do that.
Isn't Lyons a destination location?
Yeah, if you don't wanna drive up the hill, you just stay in Lions. It's a nice community, very nice, nice little business area.
It's the pleasure of the board on the sales tax.
I am concerned about going in, I don't think we rush it, I agree, it's better to do your homework and have all your ducks in a row before you ask for something so great, but I am concerned about going into 2020, knowing that we're going to have potential incentives, this economic development plan is going to demand this board spend some money, ask the board to spend some money towards our businesses in the town, and we don't necessarily have a funding source to do that with.
We can also make the new business the funding source of the incentives, it depends on how we write the incentives. Right? The new business comes in and we rebate the first, I'm just throwing something out there, the first $10,000 in sales tax back to them. We didn't lose anything, we have more traffic in town, only that business's sales tax is rebated back to them. We didn't lose a darn thing.
That's for new businesses.
Absolutely.
I'm more so worried about the current businesses.
And that's true.
And the pros and cons is if we wait till November, that's a huge election because of the national stage. So I don't know what kind of mood people will be in by then. I mean, and then after that, we don't have another spring election until the following November of 2021, because our elections are on even years.
Yeah, because they could be overwhelmed in November with everything that's on the ballot.
That's a downside, is,
Yeah.
you know, timing and kind of gauging. I know back in '09, I don't remember exactly what was on the ballot, but it wasn't as contentious as I estimate 2020 would be. And that influences your question.
There wasn't a presidential election.
Yeah, that's, if we don't get November, then we're looking at an opportunity of miss out like a year and a half to 2 years of.
And we have time to make this final conversation, so what I'm gonna do is bring this back up in January 17th.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, we don't decide anything until January 7th.
Do it special.
So yeah, having it all prepared by, what did you say, Mary, first part of February, or to get it on the April ballot?
Drafting a sales tax question is not gonna be hard for the town attorney.
Okay.
I say we sleep on it over the holidays and really think about it, because it's a big decision, it really is.
You can go either way. I mean, I hate to lose out on it, and a lot of it is timing, it really is. If the town gets some help from the two local community-based committees, especially the PTT, because if part of the funds go to them and get the word out, they're not government employees.
Right.
They're not elected officials.
Right.
So, I just gotta make sure I follow the town attorney's guidelines for.
You can make that map look a lot prettier, what it could look like.
Yeah, I have to hire somebody to do that, cause I can't do that. Thank you for the map too.
No problem, thank you for that, the negotiation that you did at West Farm, not to jump ship, but, I mean, that's incredible, what I see there. I'm super stoked about that.
Thank you.
I have an unrelated question for you.
Sure.
I know in the discussion that recently we talked about the fact that the water rate was gonna go up 1% for next year, is that correct?
It's built into the budget.
I'm curious as to what happened to the 18% increase from, is it Northern Water?
Our demand or treatment? Treatment
Yeah.
went up 18% in the one line item, not the entire water fund.
Right.
And then our demand chart went down from central, is that right?
Correct.
Ended up being, what, about $10,000 difference between the two?
Yes.
So the 1% would have more than compensate that.
Okay.
In a $250,000 budget.
Okay, I just couldn't square all those numbers.
Yeah, and that's what's confusing, is 18% is just that one amount in the entire budget of the water fund. It's not 1% or 18%. That would, I'd probably lose my job with that one.
Well, I'm sure there's some places where you and the board could move to and be very tropical with more water.
Well, I appreciate the discussion on the ballot questions. I'll tell the town attorney to move forward with the final draft of the three for the marijuana. Give her a heads up on either half or 1% sales tax increase for quote economic development, which we need to define, and
From the plans I've read and from talking to Cheryl, I really think that definition, I think the community would be amenable to that. Knowing it'll go toward parks, downtown, green opportunities, rebates for the businesses.
Yeah, the people that I know, I think colored pictures would be appropriate for an example.
Well,
But
like I said, that's
there are
not me,
benefits
but I'll
to
find
putting
somebody
it-
to do it.
Yeah, there's benefits to putting it on now.
Okay.
I just wanted to broach one subject. I've already brought this up in the past, and I dug into some of the arguments that were made. The CMAQ vehicles that we're receiving. So CMAQ stands for Congestion Mitigation and Air Quality Improvement. So recently, Weld County, along with 8 other counties, were downgraded by the Republican-led EPA to serious violator status for ozone contamination. So are we planning to just get these vehicles and thumb our nose at the intent of the program some more, or can we seriously consider looking at using the natural gas capability of these vehicles?
The vehicles have been fueled with natural gas, just on a consistent basis. We look at both, we'll primarily look at cost. There was a period not too long ago where gasoline was much higher than natural gas, and I know that those vehicles are being fueled by natural gas. I have not set a policy that they can only be fueled by natural
No,
gas.
and I wouldn't want that.
But saying that they may never have, they have, just not on a consistent basis.
I did speak with Mike at Mike's Automotive,
Mhm.
because one of the concerns was the wear and tear on the vehicle. He couldn't substantiate that claim at all. He said that it's good, this is good technology, especially if the cars are built with that from the factory, which these are.
It's cleaner.
As far as the power output, that he talked about, Carl, Mike and I were talking a little bit, and my automotive and electrical background, I'm like, well, you can kind of switch on the fly between the two, right? So
Yeah.
let's put a relay that when you activate your lights, it automatically switches you back to gasoline. You don't have to think about it. You guys are ready to go. Mike could install that for us. We talked about it.
So he can add a relay that when our light bar goes on, it moves from CNG to regular leaded gas,
Right.
I mean.
Yeah, it would automatically just do the switch for you.
And the one thing about the CNG vehicles is, even like the one that Carl has, the SUV, can't always have a non-certified mechanic that doesn't know CNG work on it. And I have the greatest respect for Mike, but I'd like to get a different opinion on that before I move forward.
Yeah. No,
Because still,
absolutely.
some of our vehicles are under warranty, we can't let them be touched by anybody else. I hear a lot about what you're mentioning with the ozone and different things. Also met with an oil and gas company recently that are coming out with technology that can, I don't know all the terminology they use, pretty excited about cleaning the air more so with how they treat than ever before. They could do 10 years worth of treatment in 6 months. I don't know what the technology is, but they use that for lucky. And I think they have a subsidiary that's coming into Platteville on the newest building that we have up there. It's interesting. I don't have all the answers, and I'm not gonna get in politics right now.
I'm not fighting, this isn't even about climate change. This is just about air quality. When you light it,
Oh,
I have, any time in my house, because I have 2 furnaces and 2 hot water heaters and a gas stove, I have 5 natural gas fires going in my house. I walk around just fine. Try and start a gasoline fire inside my house and see how long we're gonna last inside there. I mean, it obviously burns cleaner. You can't argue that it doesn't.
And that's why natural gas is being sought after as it is. So,
Wasn't Henry Arco gonna start drilling up there north of 32 and a half?
north of 32.5.
North of the sewer lagoons and stuff, weren't they gonna take and start drilling up there?
I haven't confirmed anything yet on any.
You talked about it back in, I think, August, that they were gonna,
Yeah, I haven't received any referrals recently. A lot of things were kind of put on hold because of that transition with Fox Bill.
okay.
I know that's one of their areas along with north or by Schultz subdivision.
Yeah, 'cause I remember you saying that you were telling them that we're back here, cause we wanna try to develop that in the future.
When I met with one of the attorneys from Anadarko at the CNL conference, we met on the side just to talk about those two areas, how they may impact Platteville. And I believe I told the board I opposed both of them, because that's their growth boundary.
Right.
I asked them not to drill in those areas or to reduce the footprint substantially. I have not received anything back from them, just curious. That's all I have for my report. Any questions from the board? The last meeting of the year. Thanks, staff, for coming tonight. David told me 40 minutes ago if I kept it quick, we'd get by 8, but sorry. It doesn't work like that.
He didn't talk very fast.
I talk slow and I like talking to the board, so.
We don't get together that often.
Are there any updates from the committees?
Yeah, there are. We had a meeting, this is December. It was really just kind of a prepping for 2020 and update kind of thing, but plan for the committee, we probably need to officially vote on this, but a general consensus is that we will pursue a design grant for the trail system, based on the acquisition of the land that we're talking about tonight. GoCo, yes. We'll also look at some other grant opportunities potentially, with Parks and Wildlife, whatever that is out there. I think it's just gonna be like a design right now, right? I think that's a better way to pursue a grant. Lincoln Park was probably too grouped together. Hopefully they'll still give it to us, but they prefer to see a design, get a professionally engineered drawing of the thing, figure out exactly what's the cost, and then submit for a bill grant. That's the direction the committee would like to move forward with this. Obviously, we'll come to the board before we submit a grant. Planning on trying to do a tree sale. The parks, trails, and trees, we'd like to try to plant some more trees than we did in 2019 and 2020. And part of that, I have a personal goal of doubling the amount of trees that were planted in the Platteville last year and this year, so this year and last year. So I'm hoping that we can do a tree sale. Meg, someone had a connection with like Longmont does a tree sale, so we're gonna try and get that. We can offer trees at a discounted rate to citizens. And then the last thing we're working on is having farmers markets. So we'll pursue looking into vendors for that and what the timeline, when, there's all kinds of thoughts as when they should be and how many we should have. And I'm more on the conservative approach of let's start small and not try to have it every week, but there's arguments for and against that. So we're just trying to nail out those details. So if the board has any input into that sort of stuff, I'd love to hear it, bring it back to the committee.
I've heard lots of people excited about the idea of it.
Cool.
Reach out directly to our local ones like Millers and
Yep. Manders.
There's quite a few in the area.
Yep.
Yeah, I was actually talking to Greg Domingo today.
I think,
Yeah, but I'm not sure.
Eckhart's our old code officer, his family.
Would you mind putting an email list together potentially?
Just voluntold myself, yeah.
Maybe a couple of the events we'd love, if we get a budget potentially that would support it, maybe a band, a couple nights, like a beer garden, potentially, there's some thoughts we had about.
Okay.
Try to make it a community event, really. The Parks, Trails, and Trees Committee is going to host a recruitment night, I guess, on February 6th at the community center with some pizza and pop and ice cream, and just try to show what we've done, what we're gonna do, and this is why we need your help. There's a lot of stuff we want to get done, and we're a fairly small group of people.
I think I did pencil that in with Mary at the community center.
Thank you.
Yes, we did. Come on.
Okay.
It will be done tomorrow.
It will be done tonight.
Does that pretty much cover it, Larry?
Yeah, we did a little brainstorming on other things down the road you might consider, but that's the.
I don't think anything concrete came out of that yet.
A lot of ideas.
Absolutely, plenty of ideas and not a lot of hands.
Not a lot of money?
Well, maybe a little bit of that next year.
Yeah.
Is this still the plan for the 9-ish thousand still go, or what?
We don't, it's budgeted as expenditure, I just don't have a contract or anything back, they won't respond to me on I'll work on that after the holidays, this is a tough month to get hold of some people.
Still in the plan.
But then again, that could be part of that 1% increase to help fund park credit fees.
Pretty soon you're not gonna be able to step out of that hole you dug.
Your wheels just get turned, I can't imagine how it is to be at home sometimes.
They did.
I don't go to bed very well.
I think that's all I had. If you guys have anything you'd like me to bring back to the committee, I'd be happy to do so.
Love what they're doing. Awesome stuff.
They had a nice booth over there, and Nick worked hard too for the youth committee.
Yep. Nick did the craft all by himself for the youth committee.
Wow.
Yeah,
Let's do that.
he powered through it, he did good. They're going to be, their next meeting isn't until January 28th, and it's supposed to be a study session. They are also trying to recruit. So, that's all I know about that. Anything else before the board? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Sorry, Dave.